Anyway, finally, they find all these emails in a junk folder, 40 emails that patients have been reaching out and no one had seen. So that was the open door to working with him.
Oh, the plateau. Every business owner eventually reaches the plateau. It's this place where everything that you've done to grow your company up until this point no longer works. For some people, that's at like $100,000 in revenue. For others, it's 5 million. But the truth is, we all hit it. That's the point where your unique skill set, your superpowers, your drive, whatever's gotten you here is no longer enough to get you to the next level. Now, most people hit this point and they just kind of find cruise control. They let it ride. It's not about option if you're just trying to optimize for quality of life. But for those who want to continue to grow, it's a frustrating time of experimentation and self-doubt because there's always been a solution, right? There's always a solution. Why can't you figure this one out? Well, what if the key to growing your business is actually to step away from it? What then? Welcome to Nikonomics. This is the show for entrepreneurs and wantrepreneurs curious to learn how other businesses work. My name is Nicholas Haluski, and I'm an entrepreneur with multiple seven-figure exits. And I've owned and operated dozens of companies and created millions of dollars in shareholder value. And on this show, I get to be curious and ask successful entrepreneurs to peel back the curtain and walk me through exactly how their business operates. And crazy enough, they tell me. Well, today I sit down with Matty McLain. He's the founder of Boost Patients. And he turned a simple idea for physicians into a thriving $2 million a year recurring revenue business. And in this episode, we are going to hear how focusing on a single hyper-targeted business idea rather than juggling multiple ventures can lead to significant growth. Trigger alert, how strategies for creating a unique business model that provide measurable impact for clients involves targeting past customers as opposed to just cold outreach of new ones, and why Matty's self-awareness and strategic thinking gave him the permission to recognize his own limitations and bring in a professional CEO to take his company, his baby, beyond the $2 million mark. So get ready to hear how you can recognize and break through the plateau in your business when you inevitably hit it. Enjoy. Okay, guys, we're going to get back to the show in just 1 second. But first, a message from a sponsor who is me. Oh, it's me because I'm doing the show for free. Listen, I want to give you $100. All you have to do is this. Go to Apple or Spotify. Give me 5 stars. Write a review. Screenshot that review, send it to me, nick@cofounders.com, and you will be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Every 4 episodes, I am going to choose a winner at random, and I'm going to do this 5 times. $500 for 5 stars. I just made that up, and it's what I'm calling it. Please go to Apple or Spotify, leave a review, screenshot it, send it to me, nick@cofounders.com, and you'll be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card. All right, let's get back to the show. All right, we're in, Matty. Welcome to Nikonomics. Stoked to have you, my friend. Why don't you start by telling us what your business is and how you make money?
Our business is Boost Patients, and we make money by helping elective surgery clinics get more patients.
Elective surgery clinics. All right. What is that? I don't even know what an elective surgery clinic is.
We were in a niche, which was private practice medicine. And even within that niche, we went even more narrow, which is elective surgery. So surgery that obviously it's not emergent, orthopedics, LASIK,
plastic surgery,
bariatric surgery. Yeah, anything that you buy as a consumer, and there's typically a good mix of cash pay in there. It's not all insurance.
Oh, that's interesting. How do those companies typically get leads?
A good mix of them is referral based, but I would say 90% of our clients, they spend money on ads. They do Google ads, they do Facebook ads, they do some mix of advertising.
And so you're doing that implementation for them. You are the company that helps them generate more leads, or do you do something different outside of the Google, Facebook, SEO?
Yep. So for the first 5 years of Boost, we were the sales department. I was helping the clinic with some related things and noticed, man, these guys were spending $5,000 or $6,000 a month on generating new leads. And if you track those leads through the sales funnel, very few of them were ending up getting a procedure. And so if you reverse engineer and say, why is there so much waste? Why are so many patients not sticking? And every business has this problem. I think private practice medicine has it more than most, which is there's lack of follow-up. Doctors' offices do not see themselves as a sales organization. And so I think it comes from the world of medicine, which is, hey, if somebody needs a knee replacement or a heart transplant, they'll call us, they'll come get it. And in elective surgery, you have to think like any other business, which is we need to get people's attention. And then when they reach out to us, we need to follow up. We need to follow up immediately. We need to follow up using all forms of communication. We need to track them in a CRM, and we need to follow up for weeks and weeks and weeks. And you'd be hard pressed to find a clinic that does that.
So are you doing the pay-per-click SEO as well as the sales team service for these companies?
Only in the last 6 months, that was the first time we said, okay, we will run the ads to generate the lead ourselves. For the previous 5 years, we said, we will integrate with your forms and we'll get more mileage out of the leads you already have. And that was fantastic.
Oh, interesting.
It just makes sense for us to enter the ads game now.
So were you a call center for them? Or like who was doing the follow-up for these patients?
Yeah. So we started 6 years ago. We were doing only email nurturing. Then we added text messaging. And in the last year, we've added our own agents who get on the phone. So that's our big selling point.
Wow.
Is how do you treat these leads that fill out a form? And most clinics would say, well, I think, Suzanne, you call them a couple of times, right? And Suzanne says, no, I send them one email. Oh, I thought you were emailing for a week or two. No, I'm busy. Oh, I thought you were calling them. When I get around to it. And it turns out she doesn't get around to it.
Spoiler alert. She does not get around to it. How did you get into this space? Like, how did you find that this was a need? What was your background?
Yeah. Crazy story. I was doing similar work for multiple industries. So I had clients who were a roofing company, guys who trade commodities, a group of realtors, a bottled water company, and it was helping them. Basically, if you boil it down, they want more sales. And that was my job, is to go in and help them figure out how to close more business. I worked out at a gym I knew he was a surgeon. I didn't know him very well. And I thought, man, this would work so well. He was a bariatric surgeon. And I actually mystery shopped.
Sorry. Like orthopedic, I know you're dealing with joints or something. What is a bariatric surgeon?
Great question. Bariatrics is weight loss surgery.
Weight loss. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So you're working out with the weight loss surgery doctor.
Yep. And I think, man, I'm doing this for other industries. This would work really well for weight loss surgery. High ticket item, lots of cash pay. There's lots of education. It's not just a quick decision. It's a long sales cycle. And so I went home and I mystery shopped his website. I filled out his contact us form and I said, I'm ready to come in for a consult. I'm cash pay. What's next? And I took a screenshot and I timestamped it. And then I waited and I was like, ooh, what's the follow-up going to be like? And
he had no idea. He had no idea you were doing this.
Nope. We didn't really know each other.
That's rad.
So do the mystery shop and nothing happened. I thought that was, this is so delicious. I turned it into a story and sent it out to my email list. I had about 500 subscribers where I would put out, just sales tips and general information. So I turned that into a story. I blurred out the name of the clinic and I said, hey, we all need to remember, we got to eat our own dog food. We got to fill out your own form, call your own business, see how the response is. And I didn't know, but he was actually on the email list. So he reads the story and he gets halfway and says, what the heck? He's talking about us. And so he goes through his clinic saying, who gets the emails from the website? And everybody was pointing fingers and saying, anyway, they find all these emails in a junk folder, 40 emails that patients have been reaching out and no one had seen. So that was the open door to working with him.
Chris has this personality. I don't have it, where he's like, I'm just going to test this out. I'm going to try this out. Like I would be sitting there thinking like, oh, should I do the form? And then someone's going to reach out to me and I got to be like, oh no, it's just a joke. Sorry, I'm not really interested. Chris is like, no, why do you have to tell them anything? Just tell them you're interested in the weight loss clinic and then never follow up with them or whatever. But did you have any intention of following up with him other than you wanted to get content out of it to send to your newsletter?
I thought that could be an open door. I had not really tried that tactic, but that ended up being a great open door. Turns out we're fantastic friends. He's just salt of the earth guy, fantastic surgeon, he and his partner. They ended up being a bedrock they let me in their clinic. I spent weeks and weeks and weeks in the back of the clinic, sitting with patients, listening, asking questions, taking notes to figure out how come more of these customers can't make it to the end of this journey. And so
when I was in high school, I was the class clown. I got voted most likely to make you laugh. And one of my teachers told my mom, they're like, Nick has a shotgun approach to humor. And I don't know why that always stuck with me. I didn't understand it at the time. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like a spray and pray approach. I just say a bunch of random crap and like eventually one of the things will hit and be funny. But I think it's also similar to Chris's approach to entrepreneurship. He has a shotgun approach where he's like shoots and he just sees what sticks. Are you like, oh, that's an interesting idea, I'm going to test it, and then if there's a little bit of traction, you kind of start going down this rabbit hole? Or are you just somebody who's just naturally curious and you don't necessarily start a bunch of businesses? What's your background like?
Man, yeah. So Boost is I think I wrote it up before this. I think this is the eighth or ninth entity that I've been part of. I was probably a lot more like Chris 10 years ago, and I don't think I was as talented as Chris. So I would have two, three, four things going, but none of them getting any traction. So with Boost, my business partner and I made a deliberate decision to say no to many, many other things and focus, and that has worked out really well for us.
Tell me, how big is Boost now?
Boost is floating around $1.7 million in recurring revenue.
Awesome. There's two things that I'm interested in. I guess the first thing, at the practice level, what is the customer acquisition cost? And then at your level of Boost, what is your customer acquisition cost? Because I'm assuming they're both different.
Yeah. And man, I think it's a great subject to talk about. When we started, Boost was a side gig for my business partner and I. We had some ideas on what the patient follow-up could look like.
It's called a side hustle, Matty.
Oh, what did I call it?
A side gig? Come on, side hustle.
It was a side hustle. And we both had our hands full with other things. And we said, hey, what if we could get 5 clients? I think at that point we were charging somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000 a month for the work we were doing for a client. And we said, what if we could get 5? So that tells you how small our vision is. So we started with, could we get 5? And then we went a year and 2 years, and it was word of mouth. It was flying to Houston to visit clinics. It was a couple of trade shows. And then we look up and we have 35, and then we have 45. And
wow,
we did not intend on building this grand business. We just done it kind of brick by brick. So
really,
only in the last 12 months have we said, 2 years ago, we got to the point of, man, we got Jonah and me and Liam, who was our first key hire, and one other person really. And we said, all right, we're maxed out. Do we stay small and nimble and try to keep profits very high? Or do we want to keep going and turn this into a real business? And we chose the latter and said, yeah, let's go for it. It should be fun. Let's keep going. So we've kept going.
Since you made that decision, what was the size you were at that decision point? How big are you now?
Yeah, we were probably at $1 million, maybe just under $1 million at that point. And so I say all that to answer your question about customer acquisition cost. It was near zero at that point. It was me making calls, me doing follow-ups, me going to industry events and asking for referrals. And that got us to $1 million. And we should have started earlier, but we didn't have a real sales system in place. We weren't eating our own dog food, that's for sure. So now we have what we call the sales flywheel. It's taken us a year to fine tune. It includes building lists, scraping lists, enriching lists with home addresses and cell phone numbers and clinic addresses, and finding LinkedIn profiles and Facebook profiles, doing the outreach, mailing postcards, connecting on LinkedIn, cold calling, cold texting. So it's this whole system that we built to get in front of private practices and see if they
That's awesome, man.
Are interested. Yeah.
Are you using your same team that helps these practices close leads?
That's how we started. And now we have a dedicated team of, I would say, 3 full-time people on the outreach side.
Are they locally, or are they onshore? Are they offshore? Like, where are they based?
Yep. 1 is onshore, 2 are offshore.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so these physicians that you're working with, it's been typically word of mouth. How do you find them now? Is it just like you said, you're just scraping these lists and cold outreach, or are people Googling you and you've got SEO and you're just getting a ton of hits a month?
No, I wish. We don't have a very Googleable solution. We are an outsourced sales team. We're an outsourced patient navigator, patient coordinator. So we build specific lists. Like currently we're pursuing a list of LASIK surgeons. So we have probably every LASIK surgeon in the United States. We have multiple people on the staff. We have phone numbers, emails, addresses, and that's who we pursued. Honestly, the last time we sent out postcards, we got 3 demos out of it because the problem is so specific. If the clinic manager sees that, she actually said on the call, she signed up with us and she said, I would never respond to a postcard, but I got the postcard that said, how many of your new patients are slipping through the cracks? And she's like, oh, I'm so tired of trying to hire someone they need to be a salesperson. She's like, I'm not a salesperson and I don't know how to follow up and how to track all that stuff. So for the right person, the message just rings true.
So I have a bunch of questions about your business, but I'm not going to ask any of them. I'm more curious about the startup phase, because it sounds like you have a really good mind for it, even though it's only in the last year or so that you've created the sales team. But walk me through, you've done this 8 or 9 times. What was it about your friend at the gym that got you to the point where you're like, I'm going to go just look. I'm going to see how fast they respond to me. Why did you do that in the first place?
Yeah, curiosity, and I do love being the person who can solve a. I think that's what I love about sales is if you really think you have a solution, and truly, they just don't know it exists. And if I can just tell them about it, I've always been a salesperson. I'm gonna make sales great again. But sales get such a bad rap, but that's because there's no barrier to entry. It's like roofing companies. If you have a ladder and a pickup, you can slap a sticker on the side and say, "I'm a roofer." It's the same with sales. And so
So interesting.
there are some people in sales that we all know someone who we would say, oh my gosh, it was just the most fantastic experience. They actually did provide a amazing value. And I'm so glad I interacted with them. That's the experience that we go for. And so I think looking at a private practice and thinking, yeah, I think I can help the practice level up their sales to their patients, which is, it's good for the doctor. It's good for the patient. It's great for everybody.
I find it interesting because I think there's 2 types of people. There's a lot of different types of people, but generally speaking with stuff like this, there's 2 types. And Chris and I embody the 2 types pretty well. There's the first type, which is you, which is like, that'd be interesting. I'm going to try it. Oh, I wonder how much demand there is in Waco, where we bought this RV park, for RV parks. I was going to post something on Facebook Marketplace to see if anybody responds to it. Oh, you know what? I'm kind of curious. I have this list, because Chris just has lists of 10,000 people that live in the state of Georgia. I'm curious if anybody in Georgia would buy like peaches from me. So he's like, I'm going to send 500 a test. He just tests it, right? That's the one type. And then there's like the second type of person, which is more me, which is like, okay, so there's 10 million people that live in Georgia. Of that, the demographics are going to be between 35 and 41, maybe 600,000. Okay, I'm going to need to break it down by income and then location and infer whether or not they like peach. Like I'm doing all this research where if I had just acted in the first place, I probably would have gotten a lot better primary information. But have you always been like that? Do you just do that naturally? Are you like, oh, I'm going to go act?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and my business partner, Jonah, he is the Nick for sure. Yes. Except, yeah, I probably have way less capacity than a Chris of the moment it turns into details and follow up and tracking and systems like, oh man, all the fun is gone. I'm out of here. This is not what I signed
Oh,
up
don't
for.
worry. No, he doesn't have a capacity for that.
Okay. Good.
You're not alone. So you've done this 8 or 9 times. Walk me through that process of, all right, you tested it and you sent it out to your newsletter. It was interesting. How do you decide to take the next step to start doing some research on like, could this be a business?
Yeah, I've talked about this with different friends. It depends on your situation, right? Are you fully employed? Do you work 40, 50 hours a week for a job? Do you have another side hustle already? Are you self-employed? There's all sorts of factors, but I want to do something that's not being done. That just lights me up.
Okay.
I think over the last few years of, just going through the pain of growing a business from 0 to 1 million to 2 million, there is a certain amount of pain and frustration, especially in this industry. We use a lot of technology. We're using phones, email systems, AI, texting.
Yeah.
And that world changes so quickly that it feels like we are a startup. We're 6 years old, but we're still doing startup shifts and massive changes. And so because of that experience, there's a big part of me that thinks there is something to a boring old business. There's something to a painting company where you can, my buddy has a handyman service, and all they do is go put a bunch of yard signs out and send some postcards, and their phone rings off the hook. Now, they have their own problems and issues, as we all know, but having the challenge of level of difficulty to get in front of the buyer, the decision maker, that is a real thing. And we happen to choose an industry that, man, it is. You ever cold called doctor's offices for 2 weeks? You should do that because it will thicken your skin.
I have actually. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's tough.
Cold call in person, actually, which is awful.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're going to get back to the show in just 1 second. But first, a message from a sponsor who is me. Oh, it's me because I'm doing the show for free. Listen, I want to give you $100. All you have to do is this. Go to Apple or Spotify. Give me 5 stars. Write a review. Screenshot that review. send it to me, nick@cofounders.com, and you will be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Every 4 episodes, I am going to choose a winner at random, and I'm going to do this 5 times. $500 for 5 stars. I just made that up, and it's what I'm calling it. Please go to Apple or Spotify, leave a review, screenshot it, send it to me, nick@cofounders.com, and you'll be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card. All right, let's get back to the show. All right, so after you do that first test where you're like, oh, okay, there's something little here. What's your next step to validate the idea even further? In this instance, you went and talked to your doctor friend, and it was obvious there were 40 emails sitting in a junk folder that hadn't been responded to. What was the next step for you to validate whether or not this was an actual idea?
Yeah. So I guess there's 2 different levels. Level 1 is validating Boost as a business. Level 2, validating, can I get in front of doctors? Or level 2, can we help doctors get in front of more patients? Which one do you want to go after?
When did you do next?
We validated the idea of the product. We obsessed over it really probably for too long. So we started we got all the old leads, the stale leads from the clinic, and we would do these re-engagement campaigns and see how many people booked consults and how many of those people went on to have a procedure. And so that was very easy to show.
How were you tracking that? Manually, or was it through a Flywheel campaign? What did you do?
The first thing we ever used was Drip. Did you ever use Drip? Where you could build.
To be honest, I've never used any of this stuff. I just know it secondhand because Chris talks about it so much.
Yeah. I think Chris is big on Klaviyo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never used Klaviyo, but Drip is probably a form of Klaviyo. We don't use it anymore, but it was very easy to say, hey, put 800 old stale leads in, re-engagement through different activities, and see how many of those people submit the booking form. Ooh, and then take those 47 people and how many went through all the hoops and actually showed up to the front door, and then go to the clinic 2 months later.
When you sent those 800 out, were you checking every day? How many have we gotten back? What's our response rate? What's the open rate?
Absolutely. We were obsessing over every patient reply that said, thank you guys for following up. We were taking screenshots and sending it to everyone.
So was that campaign the campaign that let you know oh, okay, yeah, there is a need here for physicians?
Yes. Yep. The first 3 physicians we had, the results were so dramatic for them. And they were saying things like, this is the best money we've ever spent, and we've been doing this for 20 years. Because I'm trying to think of a good analogy. We still do the mystery shop. We do it every week. We've done it 100 times, mystery shopping a clinic and taking screenshots and even recording the calls, and then getting in front of the physician to say, hey, how much are you spending on marketing? $20K a month. But when someone reaches out to you, this is how it goes. I reached out to you. I said I was a patient. No one called me. I got 1 email, which was 3 days later, and that was it. And best practice is you should text me back in 60 seconds, 24 hours a day. You should call me 6 times. You should email me 10 times. You should text me 5 times. Just showing them that. And when you get in front of the right doctor, they say, and so all we have to do is say, how much is the procedure worth? And they say, well, I get paid $6K. You say, man, do you think we could get 5 more people a month to engage with you? 10 people a month?
And that's a really fascinating lead generation strategy. Just they have it on their websites, they have the number, secret shop them, and then show them, hey, look, I sent the email this day. Here it is, timestamped. No one's ever even responded to me. I sent this in May. It's July 4th.
Yes.
And then they're like, wait, what the freak? And do you use that as a lead generation strategy?
Absolutely. Every week.
That is money.
Wow. Oh, I agree. And it sounds amazing. The majority of the time, it's hard to get that in front of the doctor initially. The majority of the time, the only person at the doctor's office who wants more patients is the doctor. If you ask anyone else, they say, I'm too busy as it is. They're like, I'm super busy and we already have a bunch of patients. And you say, oh, so that person has a different problem. Clinic manager, sometimes they want more patients, but usually that is the doctor's paying. So we have to speak to the clinic manager in a different voice and say, hey, aren't you tired of hiring these positions that if they're good, they move on? If they're bad, you fire them? We can be that outsourced sales team, and that makes them look good instead of putting a bunch of work on their plate.
How long did it take you to go from $0 to $10,000 a month in revenue?
Man, good question. We hit that sometime in the first, I'm going to say 8 months. So because that would have been 5 to 7 clients.
To me, that sounds like a long time.
It was a long time. Yeah. And
okay.
I think because we didn't know what we were doing And it just took so long. And we over obsessed
It was
about the
also your
product.
side hustle though, right? Like you weren't doing this full time, either of you.
Correct. Yep. It wasn't until probably 18 months in that we said, let's do this full time.
You didn't hit $10,000 a month in revenue until 8 months in. How long did it take? And it took you 2 years to get to a year in revenue, right?
That's probably, yeah, maybe a little more than 2 years. I'm not sure.
Can you like identify any specific milestones in your mind where it was like, oh man, at 10,000, we had to hire our first person because it was no longer us doing everything. And at 50,000, we had to like, are there different milestones that you can look back on and say, these were inflection points?
Oh, absolutely. I wish I would have. I have a spreadsheet somewhere that was from day one, and it was an Excel sheet, and it showed every client down the left and their revenue across left to right. And then I would put those milestones at the bike. Hired Liam, who was our first employee, switched to a different software, added. So I would have all these, it would show what the revenue was and when we took these certain actions. Like if I would have known, I should have pulled that up.
Talk about your mindset in understanding or identifying when it shifted from a side hustle to going in on it more full time, because a lot of people enter entrepreneurship through a side hustle. And that's the question that they're asking themselves. At what point is this no longer a side hustle? At what point is this something I go all in on? How did you think about that? And when in your mind did it shift from, oh, this isn't just a side hustle, this is the real deal?
Yeah. When you start a side hustle, and I've had a few, those extra dollars feel like icing on the cake. You go, oh, I'm making an extra $2,500 a month outside of my living. And for many, many people, $2,500 a month, that would be life changing. It's degrees of growth. And I think for some people, it could be a mix of greed. For some people, it could be a mix of desire to, prove something. But I think for a lot of us, you didn't know you could do it, and then you did it, and you have those resources and those contacts, and you say, we built the go-kart in your garage on the weekend. We could build a little dune buggy. You build a dune buggy. We could build a little race car. We could build a little airplane. And so you keep going because like, yeah, we can. And with this accumulated knowledge, we can keep going. And so I remember getting to a point of side income and saying, this is no longer icing on the cake. Now, when I go do my other gig, I'm stealing from myself because this is the biggest opportunity. You put them side by side and say, man, now I'm cheating myself out of.
Okay, so tell me when that was. Like, what does that mean? How much was that a month to you when you're like, oh, okay, this is now overtaking my main thing?
Yeah.
Do I need to reevaluate whether or not my side hustle should be my side hustle?
Yeah, dang, that is a great question. Probably my income from Boost matched when it equaled my income of the other thing. I'm going to say that was in the neighborhood. He was right below or equal to. I said, what am I doing? The potential. I mean, this product, this market, the fit, it's just, we just need to do more of what we're doing.
You've got the tailwinds of an aging demographic. You've got the tailwinds of a richer demographic who are able to spend on elective surgeries. And you're growing without even really trying. You don't have a marketing team, right? I would be looking at that even in the early days, like, I should probably throw some money behind this. But what was that revenue then? When it was matching, when like your take home was matching what you were doing in your other projects, like what was the revenue of the agency?
Yeah, my take home was probably, and you asked about profit earlier. I was going to say, man, in the early days, oh my gosh, we were so profitable. We were richly profitable because we were killing ourselves. We were doing all the work, getting up early, staying up late, dropping balls. And we had to go through that pain to say, are we willing to let some other people come and help us and drop the profit? So a month that we hit 40 to 50K in revenue was probably like, oh my gosh,
that was it.
This is it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. Of course, you're more profitable in the beginning because you're doing everything.
Yep.
Right. And there are some businesses where you can be a consultant and it's like, this business is only going to scale as far as my time is able to be scaled. But in a services business like this, you can scale beyond yourself. It's not like you're the only person in the world who can answer a phone call or respond to an email. Let's say $50,000 a month in revenue. What was the time between the 10,000, which was 8 months in, and the 50,000?
That was probably a long time because we intentionally, my business partner and I know what you will say, but we on purpose said, no, we want to stay small and nimble. Overhead is death. I've been self-employed for a long time, but when you're self-employed, overhead is death. I mean, where that book is back here. It's like a company of one. I forgot who wrote it. He's talking about the benefits of staying small and very, very profitable. And ooh, that sounds delicious. And when you're in that mindset, you don't want to hire people. You don't want to spend money unnecessarily. And then when you step over into let's grow, you have to completely change your thinking and say, no, we succeed through others now. I cannot do the work. I physically cannot.
It's an interesting point, but I think my main question now becomes, for most people, when they start growing a business, they're like, grow at all costs. Oh, we're getting more business. We should keep growing. They don't get to the, let's just keep it small and profitable until and unless they've had something big and they're like, I've done that before. I don't want that. Or they've had something big and it failed.
Yep.
Right. Where it's like, no, I know the downside of risks. I'm not trying to take on any of that risk. So did you have experiences in the past where like stuff either you had blown up or you had managed things that were big that sort of informed this thesis of like, yeah, let's just stay small? Where did that come from?
I have always worked for, my first job out of college was, I studied entrepreneurship at UNT in Denton.
Okay.
So I had always planned on starting a business, and I've never been part of a large company. I've never been part of anything corporate. It's always been very small. I value freedom of choice. If I want to pursue something creative or shiny and flashy, I want to do that. If I want to take time off, I want to do that. However, it's easy to say that, but when Boost got to $2 million, and it took me a while to realize, oh, I'm actually not the guy to keep going to 5, 6, 7, 8. I think Boost can and it will.
Yeah, man.
That's not me. That is very difficult to look at yourself in the mirror and say,
Yeah.
oh, I thought I was going to go on next podcast and the title was going to be Matty takes us to $10 million. It's like that, growing up, reading all the business porn, Inc. magazine, Fast Company, that is kind of the picture in your mind.
Right.
But that's just not me in any way. In fact, it was probably at 1 to 1.5 million that I should have said, someone else needs to come in here and do this thing because it's not me.
Good for you. That's really mature. That's a hard thing to kind of come to. I got fired, but I had to come to the realization that 0 to $1 million, like probably anything under $2 million, it's just not for me because I'm not a sales guy. I can build good relationships, but I'm not like you and Chris, where I'm just like, I'm gonna go test this idea. I'm gonna go throw something out there. Well, I'm just gonna go figure this out. I get like in the weeds in many respects, which is good later down the road when you're trying to figure out processes and you're trying to bring people on and you're trying to be thoughtful about architecture, sort of where we're headed. But in those beginning stages, like the $2 million in revenue and below, that's not me. That was a tough pill to swallow. And like I said, I got fired. And after I got fired, I was like, yeah, that was probably stupid of me to do. But thankfully, I was on somebody else's dime. My hat's off to you because it is hard. Like it's hard to get to that place where you're okay with admitting where you have weaknesses. All right. So for you thinking about the future, what's the next milestone? So it sounds like you got to $1 million. You've come to the realization, hey, I'm not the guy to take it to 5, 10 million. Like, so are you thinking about hiring a professional CEO? Like, how are you thinking about growth in the future?
Yeah, we already have. We're right in the middle of that at this moment. So brought someone on who the intention was he would transition into CEO, which he is. He's 90 days in, and that is the plan. He's stepping in. He's taking over.
You, man.
Yeah, he grew a company, I would say, similar to Boost, to about double what we are now. That's what he loves to do. It's what he wants to do. So so far so good.
All right. Well, I have some questions to wrap up here. Is that cool?
Go for it.
All right. What do you love about Boost?
I love that Boost is different. We're not it's hard to put us in a box. Even people say, are you guys a website agency? You do ads on the websites? Like, nope, we don't do that. We do. I think the best thing about Boost is on our customer quotes page, we have doctors saying that we help them grow 20%, 30%. That's meaningful to me. I think being a private practice doctor is incredibly challenging. And to the degree we can help them stay private and stay profitable, that means a lot to me.
That's awesome, man. What do you hate about it?
I hate that we're still a startup, and that's probably my fault. That's completely my fault. I think that's what I want to do. And so I'll make Boost continue to be a startup until someone else takes over and says, nope, sorry, no more changes. We got a thing that works. We're going to rinse and repeat and go to $5, $10 million.
In theory, it sounds good. It's hard to actually put it into practice. Always kind of grass and screener type of guys. jealous of different businesses. For you, as you're sitting here, what industries are you jealous of right now?
Yeah. Man, I'm always jealous. Well, two things. I always fantasize about being in real estate.
Same.
Like, come on. I just want to buy a bunch of property and live the
Yeah.
good life. I know those guys have their own challenges, and I have to admit, I'm a little jealous of people who went all in on building an audience 5, 6 years ago. And I
Hmm.
know, I know you'd say it's not too late. And I don't think it's too late.
I
I
feel the
don't think
same
I
way.
will. I don't think I will do that, but I do look at it as, dang it. Oh, now of course
Yeah.
it looks like a fantastic move.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. You have 2 hours in your day. You don't have any family stuff. You don't have any work things, obligations. You can do whatever you want. What are you obsessed with right now? Where are you spending your time?
That's a big question. I am writing a book.
Go on.
Yeah. Yes. This is a rabbit trail of rabbit trails. I spent all of my 30s, I'm 41, and my 30s, I dealt with a health issue,
Uh-huh.
and I'm writing a book about psychosomatic disorder,
Okay.
mind body stuff.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I would ask you what that's about, but I've spoken to you about it before, and I know that it's longer than we have for this
Yeah.
podcast. So,
Yeah.
all right, last question. What advice would you give to yourself 10 years ago? 31-year-old Matty.
Yeah, man, I would have said, calm the heck down. I do think, I love business. I'm still passionate about business. But when I was 30, I had two tiny little boys, and I was very scared that I would never make something of myself.
Mm.
I think if you show up every day and you work hard, you will absolutely make it. But I think it's probably the biggest struggle for our generation, me and you and guys 10, 15 years younger than us, is just the constant weight of, I need to get ahead, because that can crush you.
I think about this a lot. Because I felt that way. I think many of us have felt that way. And if I would have told myself, on the one hand, if I would have told myself to relax a little bit, I don't know that I would have done what I needed to do to get to where I am today. But at the same time, I do want to go back and tell myself, like, hey, dude, it's going to be fine. You don't need to have these sleepless nights, because you do want to reassure yourself. And so I do struggle with that piece of advice, because I do hear a lot of people give it. I give it because, like, there are two sides to that coin. You know what I mean?
I've talked about this with many people, to say that thing, why are we sitting here with a couple of great businesses? Because we had a bias to action and we wanted to do something. And now I want to do something else. So you're right. Maybe the better advice would have been, hey, it works out. Okay. It works out.
I'm not saying your advice is bad or wrong, because I agree with that advice. It's just, I think about that a lot. Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I would have said also, buy NVIDIA. I mean,
that's great advice. Buy Bitcoin, buy NVIDIA. Genius. All right, Matty, where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah. Boost Bariatrics, or Boost Patients. Sorry. We started as Boost Bariatrics. We changed.
Boost Patients.
If you're interested in that service, or if you just want to get a hold of me, yeah, you can. People can email me. I don't know why they would, but boostpatients.com. We have a contact form. We have a calendar. If you need to get a hold of us. Hopefully you have a huge following of private practice doctors.
We have a massive following of private practice. Actually, I had the DSO guy, David. So I at least know there's dentists who listen.
It's great.
Right? That's tangential.
Yeah.
All right, Matty, this has been awesome. Appreciate you taking time, my friend. And we will talk soon.
Thanks, Nick.
See
you.
All right. That's it. Another one for the books. I'm fired up. I don't know what else to say. I hope you found something valuable in that conversation. I hope you learned something. I hope there's something that you can apply to your business today, tomorrow, in the future, that makes you money, makes you more successful, gives you more time with your kids. If there was something, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Give me some feedback. And if you like actionable advice and you want more of this, I write a weekly newsletter that gives insights, tips, and tricks into the world of entrepreneurship. Subscribe in my bio. And if I can help you in any way in your entrepreneurial journey, don't hesitate to reach out to me, nick@cofounders.com. Sorry, Kelly, for more emails. And the last thing is, remember, curiosity is a superpower, and you can use it to your advantage. As my mom used to say, There's no such thing as a dumb question, only dumb people. We'll see you next time.